Now in the last video, we talked about the potential for tropical development and a potential hurricane to hit the Caribbean and Texas. However, I didn't go fully in depth, and with the new models coming in, I think now would be the perfect time to explain more dynamics and go through all the potential worst case and best case scenarios for this thing. Hello, I am Pat from Pat's Path Predictor, and let's go ahead and dive right into this. Alright, so this is what we're looking at right here. This is the latest model run right here. We have the 12Z coming in, and we're only down to 210 hours, but we're still going to use some of this nevertheless, and because it goes far enough to really show what's going to happen in the Caribbean. And this is what we have right here. This is going to come off on the night of June 25th or the morning of June 26th. We're not entirely sure which it is, but it's likely going to be going off the coast of Mauritania by the 25th and moving into the Atlantic by the 26th. And then basically we take a look at this right here. This is an interesting development. We are looking at more moderate models than we have seen. We've seen models not really strengthening, but also not weakening at this stage either. But this is something interesting we need to take a look at, because we're seeing some interesting situations going on. I am noticing a trend here where we have more of these model runs having this thing moving a little bit more towards the north. But at the same time, this is we have to take this with a grain of salt, because this is several days out. So, but yeah, this is interesting. We can take a look at the Zero C just to reference that. And there are some model runs that have this thing moving into the Leeward Islands. We have models pretty much moving this thing through the Caribbean, as a matter of fact. But if we take a look at the Zero Z, and you might want to see something, because this is interesting right here, because pretty much these models enter into the Gulf of Mexico. And what do you know? Look at this. A lot of them are either strong tropical storms or hurricanes, ladies and gentlemen. The pressure around 980, like, I can tell immediately by the pressure that this is hurricane strength, because you do not see a lot of 980 millibar tropical storms unless it's like the freaking size of the Gulf of Mexico. But that's besides the point. And basically, from the looks of it, it looks like the western Gulf Coast is going to be threatened if this trend continues. Now, this is 15 days out. We don't know anything yet, and this is why I put disclaimers in my video, which is where the following information is based off of modeling and official sources, and everything else is my own conjecture. So that's why I put disclaimers on it. So yeah, that's an interesting thing to take a look at right here. Even at the 6Z, we're seeing some interesting stuff going on, and this only goes 6 days out. And here's what I mean by that. We're looking at potentially down to 1,000, down to 999 millibars, maybe up to 1,002 in some instances of this ensemble spaghetti plot right here, which is kind of interesting, because I'm noticing the trend isn't really weakening. The trend isn't even either strengthening either with the European ensemble. Now, we're going to look at every metric for you guys just to show you what I'm talking about. We're going to be using the 0Z because this goes the furthest out. If we do have more information from the 12Z, we will be using that as well, just for context sake. So, yeah, this is what we're looking at. Let's go ahead and start with the temperature of the sea right here. About 27 to 28 degrees Celsius, or about 80 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you in the United States. And it's looking pretty good for tropical development if you look on it on sea surface temperatures alone. Now, we can't really go off of that. We have to go off of a lot of other metrics, a lot of other dynamics, including wind shear, moisture, main sea level pressure, all the above. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Now, if we take a look at the wind shear right here, the wind shear isn't great in some areas right here, but this is now. Wind shear is going to change in the next few days right here. Now, I don't know how much it's going to change. We can't really estimate that right now, but it is an interesting thing to take a look at, because it shows that at least in the immediate vicinity of this thing moving through, it looks like it is favorable for development. But we have another issue, and let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's go ahead and go to the moisture right here. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of dry air in the Atlantic, and this is today. Let me show you what the model is going to have. This huge blob of very moist air is going to be moving into the Atlantic and kind of giving this system right here a little bit of a boost. Giving it its own water pocket right here, its own moist pocket it can use and accelerate and develop. And then, as time goes on, in the next few days, things get a bit interesting according to the 0Z, because it seems like this thing flies a little too close to the dry air, because it does appear that after a few days, bam, they're not detecting a low pressure system anymore. That doesn't mean the storm's not there. it's several days out, so we're going to see stuff like this a lot, but we're still going to have to pay attention. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 12Z just to see what's going on. So same thing, and then this thing has a chance of developing. And what I'm looking at, if this thing does develop, it will be in this time space right here because it's in the moist air, plenty of warm water, there's going to be weak wind shear there. If it develops there, we'll go over that in a little bit. But yeah, basically similar situation right here. The dry air potentially invades this thing, and the system has a hard time and just doesn't look like it. Then again, this is a week out, so we have to still pay attention to it nevertheless. And then moving on, this is the latest run we have right here, and this goes all the way up to 330 hours out here. And yeah, it looks like the air at least in the Atlantic, on average, gets a lot less dry. But at least in the deep tropics, it doesn't look very favorable for development, at least for the first week of August. We can't go any further past that. I wish I could, but these models won't let me. But with that being said, we'll have to pay attention to a few other metrics as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 850 millibar heights and winds. Actually, yeah, right here, and this is what will show what's going to happen. And as you can see, this wave comes off. There's some rotation. Like you can see by these wind reports right here, these modeled wind reports right here, that there is some rotation going on. You can tell because this thing's rotating right here. So, yeah, this basic counterclockwise development. So that means something is going to be out there. It's just gonna have a little bit of a hard time once it hits that dry air if it doesn't develop early enough. And we'll also even take a look at this right here, well, the vorticity winds, because it shows something stronger does happen right here. This is the 26th. It does show that something is out there, and this thing could be stronger. But then again, it enters that dry air, and what do you know? It kind of dissipates at that point. There is a caveat to this, however. I'm giving this, in my opinion, a 50-50% chance of this thing developing, and I will tell you and I'll go back to the moisture just to tell you why. Because for the first few days, it's in this generally favorable environment where there's plenty of moist air, there's plenty of warm water, there's plenty of wind shear. If it can capitalize off of that, and if it can develop a core strong enough to fend off that dry air, it'll have an easier time once it gets to this part right here. In fact, there have been hurricanes that have been reported to even push out the dry air in their general area. A good example of this, Hurricane Laura. Hurricane Laura, as it entered the Gulf of Mexico, outflow boundaries, essentially, it just really just went out in all directions and just pushed all the dry air out of the Gulf of Mexico, making it a very favorable environment for it. So, if it does develop that kind of outflow boundary and the dry air does not invade it, then it could survive that. But if it doesn't capitalize off of these factors, and it takes longer than expected, if it's disorganized or anything like that, then this thing could not survive. Now, this is a mighty big if, because it depends on how long this thing takes to organize, how long it takes to develop, and all those and the above. Now, is tropical activity still possible in this part of the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico right here? Absolutely, yes. But we're going to have to pay attention to that dry air because that might get in the way. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at this. This is the latest satellite imagery right here. This is that wave right here that I'm circling right here. That's the wave that's coming off of Africa on the 5th and 26th. Now, even by the looks of it, it looks really organized just based on this right here. Like, you can, even though the satellite imagery is just not the best right here, you can still tell that this thing looks mighty strong and this thing could potentially organize. We'll have to wait in the next few days just to show you what's going on. But in the meantime, I will update you guys as the situation progresses. I am Pat from Pat's Path Predictor. Be sure to hit the red subscribe button and turn on those notifications for more videos. Hit the like button, it is very much appreciated. But with that being said, guys, have a wonderful day. Stay safe.